the Central Ontario Standardbred Association is working with you to ensure a vibrant horse racing community. Shared stories call for a united voice. That's COSA, representing the interests of horse people racing at Ontario racetracks. So whether you're first, last, or somewhere in between, we've got your back. With insurance, benefits, free lifetime memberships, and more. COSA. Follow our stories on social and check out the process at cosaonline.com.
Preferred Equine Online has proven time and time again to be the industry's online provider, selling the highest priced horses in all categories online, including racehorses, broodmares, yearlings, weanlings, and stallion shares. Full service, trusted and transparent. Contact Preferred for your online sales needs at www.preferredequineonline.com or call 914-773-7777.
Winback Farm of Ontario is home to outstanding sires, including a three-time millionaire pacer tattoo artist who is new in 2025, the last great son of the legendary Sub Beach Somewhere and multiple stakes champion Beachglass, Meadowlands Pace and Ontario Sire Stakes champion Lawless Shadow, and the richest pacing stallion in all of harness racing history, the great Hall of Famer Mick Wicked. Also standing at Winback Farm, Archangel, Better Than Cheddar, Betting Line, My MVP, and Trixton. For more information, visit winbackfarm.com.
Welcome to Twos in Training. I'm Jaimi MacDonald, and today we'll be catching up with Anthony MacDonald from TheStable.ca. Looking forward to hear about his 2025 upcoming hopefuls. Anthony, thanks for joining us here on Twos in Training. Before we get into these two-year-olds we're actually going to talk about, let's rewind a bit to last year and just talk about some of those standout moments that TheStable.ca had.
Yeah, it was a good year again. We had some nice horses. We were lucky enough to have a nice little trotting colt. He was a gelding. He set a world record. His name was Memento Mori. He started kind of slow this year. He had his moments. He won his second start back. Was okay in his third start, and then he kind of got mired in traffic in the Bunker Hill. He's going to make a start back at the Meadows this week. And then time is on my side, man. It was such a surprise last year to have him come back the way he did as a 3-year-old and race so well. Even myself, I got to drive him last year a lot of the times, and he was just such a great horse. And then to get to watch James drive him the other night, he paced 48-1 at Mohawk, and then just beat 48-3 the other night in the graduate lag. It's going to be a fun year with him, and he obviously come back really, really well. And then, of course, Tactical Mounds, we sold her at the end of last year, but, not very often you have a trotting mare, that has trotted sub 150, and she did, taking a mark of 49-4. And, Scott and Megan always do a good job for us, and certainly did a good job with her. And, we sold her after her 4-year-old season, but, those were some of the standout moments. We're always going somewhere. We're always busy doing stuff, and stuff gets missed. But, racing Arrowhead Hanover too, and we just had a lot of luck. And now that the summer's upon us, we hope to have more.
And how about, some of those notables coming back, like you had mentioned, Arrowhead, kind of into this season?
Yeah, he started out good. He raced good in the Bunker Hill. He got a little bump coming out of the turn. And then last week, it rained all day, and he was a winner in 54 in the mud. He raced really, really good. He's going to race in the Sire Stakes this coming Sunday at the Poconos, and I'm just excited for a year. We have him staked pretty well, and he's one of those horses. He's kind of a dark horse every time he races. He's never going to be an 8-5 horse in a Sire Stake or a major race, but he's always a horse that if you put him in the right spot, he's got a shot. And he's a really fun horse to drive. And then Captain Incredible, we paid a ton of money for this guy as a baby, and they don't really care how much you pay for them. And at 2, he looked like he had talent, but how was he going to come back? He's won his last 2 starts in 52 at the Meadows, and we're prepping him. I think his first stake race will be at the Adios, right at the Meadows.
Now, of course, you're on both sides of the border, back and forth. You've got horses everywhere. How do you decide which ones you're going to drive or where you can realistically be from day to day?
That's a good question. You know, my wife, myself, my daughter, were working on a calendar just for our family for the summer, because it's not just horse racing. I mean, I want to make sure I see my son play baseball. I want to make sure I see my daughter's dance recitals and have fun with the kids and my family. So that is always paramount. It's what can we do during the summer. You know, I don't need to drive a lot of the horses. It's not, you know, a lot of the times if I go drive, maybe I can help that horse out. Maybe it's a young trotter that I know well, or I just know the horse himself. But many times I'm not really needed, quite frankly, at the races, especially for the sophomores and aged horses. So, you know, my first goal is to see as many of my children's moments as I can. Secondly, where is it beneficial for me to be? And if those two cross paths, well, I guess we'll decide at that point.
And of course, your other children have 4 legs, and we choose those ones. However, kind of when you go to the sales, you do a lot of work. You do a lot of prep work. You do a lot of work at the sales. For you, what does that, or when does that prep work start?
You know, when the sale catalog comes out, you know, you gotta remember we have over 900 clients in 15 countries, so everybody's looking for something different. So by the time the catalog comes out, we have hundreds of sets of eyeballs that are just looking. Hey, what about this horse? What do you think of this horse? Hey, here's a brother or a sister of a horse that we had. It's always helpful. All that information goes a long way, and we take it all. We look at all the horses. We price all the horses in the sale for the most part, and then we sit down and wait. And you know, it's served us well. I think this year also we're going to get back to working with breeders. It's nice, and we have the ability to buy commercially through all the sales, but you know, some of the best moments we've had over the years were partnering with breeders. So horses that maybe couldn't make it to the sale, maybe they got sick, maybe they got injured, maybe they just get to the sale and they don't bring what they really feel they should. You know, we've underutilized that avenue over the last little while, and I think this year in particular we're going to start moving down that way also. Certainly not moving away from what we've been doing and what we are doing right now, but just maybe changing the light bulbs on that road, so to speak.
Yeah, pivoting a little bit and going towards what's best for them.
Exactly, yeah.
Next up, kind of money aside, it's always, you know, a factor when we're at the sales looking at yearlings, but money aside, what characteristics really kind of, you know, bring a twinkle to your eye when you're looking at a horse?
Listen, I'm a horseman, same as everybody else. You want to have a big, athletic, strong-looking horse, but you know, some of the things I'll look at is maybe you find that big, strong horse, or maybe they have an issue, that an OCD or something, or maybe the trotter stands off a little bit. Is that something that you're okay with? And these are things that we take into consideration also. We're always looking for a bargain and looking for a deal. If you have that great pedigree on a trotter, maybe he stands off a little bit. Is that something you're okay with? So we're always looking for ways in, I like to say sometimes. You know, everybody can just go there and, you know, all the top 10 trainers are going to tell you who the 5 most expensive horses are. I mean, that's not hard to do. But where's your best bargain? Where's your best bang for your buck? That's very subjective to everybody. And when it comes to us, you know, I just like to take a look at all the horses. What do you bring to the table? What is that particular horse worth? Is this a horse, whether it be jurisdictionally speaking or size or pedigree, what is this horse worth to us, and are we going to find value in that purchase? And I think that's the biggest question I try to answer every time a horse goes in the ring at every single sale.
Now, you talk a lot about in your videos online, you know, buckets and where jurisdictions, where each horse lays and what's the best for your business and your fractional ownership group. So can you lay that out for us sale-wise, like looking at Ohio versus New York, Pennsylvania, Ontario? Kind of, when you're going to the sale, do you have a certain amount that you want to purchase, or does it kind of depend on what's showing up?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do, I think, have a plan when we go to the sale, but a lot of that is fluid, and a lot of it is shaped by affordability and maybe value. So you might get halfway through the sale and look down and realize, geez, I have 5 Pennsylvania trotting fillies. We probably should be looking for something else. So that has happened from time to time for the year, but always kind of keeping that running tab in the back of your mind is important. So it's not as much jurisdictionally as it is a value-based program, but at the same time, I just can't go out and buy 15 Pennsylvania trotting fillies. So what we're trying to do is again, it boils down to value. Yes, jurisdiction. Again, where are all our clients at? You know, we have a number of clients that are based right here in Ontario. We have a number of clients that are based in Ohio, but we also have a number of clients that are based in Europe. So we try to cater to everybody the best we can. But again, I think the the buck stops with the value, right? You really have to be able to look at it and say, man, that was from my perspective, with all the information that I have, I think that was a really good value bargain purchase. And that's what we're trying to do all the time. And I think that's the easiest way to do it. But again, we do try to take in all the information.
Speaking of value and purchasing yearlings, some of that value can come in a first crop sire. And you have a couple of those in your stable this year. Just kind of, obviously, there's unknowns to that. What do you think about first crops and how have they been going so far?
Yeah, I mean, first crop sires have always been something we look for. I mean, I don't think they're as value based as they used to be, but when you have a first crop sire with a strong pedigree, I would think that there's a little bit of a discount there. Not always, doesn't always happen that way, but in some cases there are, and we did get a couple this year. We got now Michigan. We always try to. If I was going to be completely frank, I think the biggest reason we wanted to go back to Michigan was I went there with Amy and the kids on a long weekend, and we had a lot of fun. And I love that small track racing, small track mentality, and I like having horses with Donnie Harmon, Lauren's dad, really nice guy, and nice gentleman that owns a bakery named Henry helped me pick the horses out. So we had like a short list, and I looked at what Henry liked, and I looked at what Donnie liked, and we tried to cross-reference those, and we ended up with a what appears to be a really nice filly. She's a first crop, I believe, Captaintreacherous. I think it's first crop for him in Michigan. I haven't gone with her that much. She's actually been up here in Ontario, and James has gone with her quite a bit and really likes her. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen with her this summer. And then the Perfect Sting filly, I believe Perfect Sting is also first crop. This is a filly out of a sister to Big Jim. I haven't really paid attention to any of the reports coming in for the Perfect Stings, but this filly has been probably our best trainer week to week since we broke her. She's a beautiful filly, big black filly, and I'm eager to see what she's going to do. We're actually going to school her tomorrow at the Meadows, and I believe the Michigan filly Doon is slated to qualify here on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
So let's get into some of these. We mentioned a few, but we'll go into detail a little bit more about those two as well. But the first one we're going to talk about here is Blue Rare. So your muscle mass filly for $32,000 from Lexington.
Yeah, this is a big, beautiful filly. I think I had a couple of Ontario breds already purchased, and she was on my short list of horses I was looking at. I had her priced quite a bit higher, and every year I'm surprised there might be one sire that people kind of cool on, and it's like this collective freeze throughout the sale. And Muscle Mass is, he's a little older, but still a quality sire, and I noticed that a lot of them went for a little less than I thought they would. The first thing you think is maybe I made the mistake, maybe I priced the horses wrong, but I just felt that there was a chill on the Muscle Masses in Ontario. Now that could be because Green Manalishi's here now, and there's a number of other new sires. Yeah, more options. But this filly just looked really nice, moved well in her video, and had a real bright head on her. And I was really happy to pick her up. She was one of our best trainers training down. She's been in 2-1. We're going to school her, probably just train her Wednesday morning again. She's already schooled once, and then qualify her shortly. If she stays good, stays together, stays comfortable, and continues to progress, you'll probably see her in the Tompkins Gears. Otherwise, you'll see her in the Shire Stakes later on.
And how about next up, we have Diosa, Dela, Danza from Ohio for $33,000.
Yeah, so this filly, she's a sister to Sippin' on Sea Rock, who's the fastest colt ever, I believe. He was a winner in 48-2 last year in Lexington. A real quality horse. I know Burke's got a real strong crew there for the 3-year-old division. This is the 2-year-old sister. She's a dancing Yankee, a little quirky. She doesn't miss much on the track, but man, she can really put it all together quick. She's fast on her feet, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with her this summer. You can never tell. It's nice to come out and say, you hope and you dream, but it really depends on what everybody else has. I know she's a nice filly. That doesn't mean that other people don't have better ones. So I think she's a nice filly, and we're going to have a lot of fun with her this summer.
And back to Doon here. This is your Captaintreacherous filly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small sample, a small group eligible to the 2-year-old filly pacing division. And, I know that James doesn't throw around too many compliments of the horses. He doesn't, because he knows I get high on them pretty quick. But this particular filly, she's, in a division that isn't super deep. That doesn't mean there's not a bunch of really good fillies out there, but the way she's been training, he's talking about her being a pacing filly, not a pacing filly in Michigan, and I think he thinks very, very highly of this filly, and I'm interested to see what she's going to look like, because I sat behind her once maybe a month ago, But she's been in Ontario for most of the winter, and everybody likes her. So, again, I am kind of curious what she's going to look like this summer.
Next up, you do have your Tactical Landing filly for $52,000 from Lexington, Jailbird Jog.
Yes, super interesting pedigree on this filly. She's out of an SJ's Photo mare. Now, that mare is a sister to a Western Terror mare. That mare, obviously the trotting blood and the pacing blood was combined, and the foal out of the, so I guess the cousin, would be Don Fanucci's Zed, who was second in the Elite Lop and has raced in the Elite Lop 5 times, if I'm not mistaken. This filly's a little smaller, wiry, has made the odd mistake training down throughout the winter, but man, there just does not seem to be an end to her. I've never seen her tired, not one time. And she seems to be a really, really fast filly. And, you know, I'm torn right now. She's dual eligible. She's New Jersey and Kentucky. So where are we going to start her? I guess, you know, putting me on the spot today, I would say Kentucky. But New Jersey's not completely out of the question right away. And she's just one of those horses that it's not that she does it better than everybody. She just does it faster and doesn't get tired. So I want to believe she's going to be one of our best fillies this year, I think.
Next up, we have your Captaintreacherous colt for $35,000, Leland, Hanover.
Yeah, he was a June 11th foal, so late foal. This is a brother to Better's Wish. We had no CD removed out of him, and he was originally. So again, there's two of the things you look at. When I heard he was originally and there was no CD, I kind of wanted to keep an eye on him because I thought, you know, there might be a discount there, especially when you're talking about a June 11th foal. But a big guy and is trained down really, really well. You know, again, it's one of those situations where you're going into Pennsylvania, right? And everybody's got a nice pacing colt. All the colts can go fast. So I don't know what he'd be like. I'm not in a big hurry to get him ready. We've been in around 2.8 with him. I think if he's ready first or mid part of July or even later, it would be okay. But again, doesn't wear a boot, doesn't wear a pole, wears a nice long hobble. For the most part, he's got a good attitude. I'm eager to see what he's going to be like. I probably won't ask him for too much speed until we get him over to the Meadows maybe and school him there. But just a nice colt. He's a nice colt.
And as mentioned before, Perfect Thought from Lexington, $87,000 for this one.
Yeah, we had a big group of people, and this filly was on everybody's list. Now remember, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of horses at Lexington. I think there was 900 or more. And this filly was seemingly on all of our clients' lists that were there. You know, we went out to dinner the night before and talked about the horses we all liked and were looking at. And I think this filly was, as I said, everyone's list. And it was a lot of money for a first crop filly that only is New Jersey, but she just looked like she was so well put together and just such a nice filly to look at. Always, you know, I had her out of the stall 4 or 5 times. She always had her ears up, always eager to walk around. You know, those horses, you start pulling them out day after day after day. All of a sudden, you got to drag them around, and they're not so keen to come out of their stall. But I had her out quite a bit, and she never, ever looked displeased. She always looked eager and happy. She had a beautiful eye on her, nice body. And like I said, I think 87 was probably as high as we were going to go, but I'm certainly glad we went there. She seems to be a really nice sort of filly.
And next up, we have your Propulsion colt, Steady Volo.
Yeah, a really cool story. One of a good friend of mine. Now, when I went over to Australia and New Zealand 4 or 5 years ago to speak, the guy who showed me around in Australia was super nice guy. His name was Daniel Cordina. He was on the board at Menangle at that point and had some horses, and we ended up, you know, building a pretty good friendship, and he had bought some horses over here, and he had a friend that had a number of horses in this Steady Volo's family. And we looked at the colt. I liked him, towed out a little bit, but not bad. Big, good-looking day one colt. I didn't know how the propulsions would go. Right, we had one that was 2-year-old was racing at the time, but it was mixed in the U.S. Yeah, still early. It was very mixed. The thoughts on propulsion. So you had a young sire, at least for here. And now in Europe, a lot of people like them, but young colt for here, towed out a little bit. Kind of in day one, was he a day one horse? All things, you know, thought about. I don't know. I don't know if he was. And what happens is a lot of the times where you get those maybe day one horses, they kind of get beat up a little bit sometimes, right? They don't get those day one prices. And when people are there in day one, they're looking for that day one horse. Not to say that he wasn't, but there was enough things that maybe would steer you in the direction of another colt. Especially, I think he was a little bit earlier in the sale. So he was a buyback. Kentucky and a bottom back. And Daniel had messaged me and said, hey, did you buy that colt? And I said, I let him go. We had a number of horses on my list and everybody's lists that were coming up. And I didn't know when all of the dust settled if we were going to have a spot for him, so I kind of let him go. He said, well, he was a buyback. Maybe reach out to Bob and see if he'd want to sell him. So I did. He said, yeah, I guess, begrudgingly, he decided to sell him for what he bought him back for, and Daniel bought the horse. So this is Daniel's horse in our care, and he has trained down good. He was training awesome throughout the winter, and then he started to get a little pinchy in his knees through March. We just backed off of him and I brought him over here. We could train on a bigger track, and he got better and better and better, and lo and behold, they trained him in 2.5 or something the other day, 2.4. James and Johnny had gone with him. They said he was very good. Dominic said he has been training good. So I told him, if you feel he's good, keep going. If there's any signs of him getting on line or getting out of gear or making breaks, just doing weird stuff, he might be going through a growth spurt, just back off of him. And they said he's been very good. So a colt that we have high expectations for. Yes, he wasn't a super expensive day one trotter, but he is a really nice trotter, does his work well. And again, the towing out thing, he doesn't come near himself. He does his work well. He's a professional.
Next up, we have one of your homebreds, a filly, Long Tom, Tomboy Strong.
I was a little torn on this filly. We had her full brother last year, and I didn't like him. He had a bad attitude, and we ended up selling him. And, here we got the full sister coming behind him, and I'm like, oh. We broke her, and she was a bigger sort of filly than he was. She looked like a colt. He looked like a filly. And she was bigger, stronger, seemed eager to do her work, but would that last? I didn't know, and we trained her down. I kind of always kept a close eye on her out of the corner of my eye. Just, how was that filly today? How'd she go? I didn't get to go with her lots because she never made breaks. So obviously, I try to spend a lot of my time in the winter going to ones that maybe aren't doing it right. The ones that are doing it right, I don't get to see them that often. So Tomboy Strong did her work really well, and now we start putting speed into them in April, into May. She's still doing it really well. I trained her the other day in 2-1, come like 28-3 at Northfield Park with a half-mile track. And this isn't the old Northfield. This is slower track, and she was very, very strong. So I was thoroughly pleased. I was very guarded because the colt kind of tricked me a little bit last year. I thought he was going to be a nice horse, and right at the last second, he gave me one of those, gotcha. he just didn't turn out to be the horse I want him to be, and this filly seems like she's going to do it. And the mare, she wasn't a fast mare. She was decently bred, but I liked the fact that you could tell she wasn't good, but she tried her hardest every time she went on the track. She just didn't have the God-given talent to be a good horse. This filly here seems like she is.
As maybe some of the younger MacDonald brothers would say, the first one just didn't turn out that well.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
How about back to Ohio, select sale here for $25,000, Uncle Danny?
Yeah, this is one of my top picks of the sale. I liked everything about him. The Uncle Peters, they're kind of, love them or hate them, right? They're hard to deal with sometimes, and what we found was, you kind of pour the work to them. And if they can handle the work and they'll take it, it almost hardens them and they become nice horses. And Uncle Danny, we've had a lot of really nice Uncle Peters. Probably, I guess without looking at the numbers, truth be told, probably the best sire we've had in Ohio has been Uncle Peter for our barn. We've had a number of what the hells are nice, but I think Uncle Peter's been our top sire, and this guy just reminds me of a number of the really nice ones that we had, and I'm looking forward to racing him this summer because he's got a nice gait, moves quick, and another horse I just don't think I've ever seen him tired, and those are good qualities to have. You're going to be a racehorse, so I like Uncle Danny. I liked him from the day I saw him at the sale, and hopefully he can turn out to be a good horse for us this summer.
And it's easy to go back to those sires that you have success with.
Yeah, easy. I mean, a lot of the horses, you look at a horse like Sun Beach somewhere, he just stamped everything. They just all seem to look the same and be the same. Some were faster than others, but they all looked like him. And Uncle Peter, the ones that we had were all stubborn, all a little rude. A lot of them ended up gelded earlier on. But as the spring wore on and you started to pour the coal to the fire, they responded well. They hardened well, and they ended up being nice horses. And this guy just reminds me of every good one we had.
And last on our list here today, we have Zina Kemp. So from Lexington for $25,000.
Yeah, I always love working with everybody in the industry, and every sale season we'll have somebody message me at the sale and say, hey, I bought this horse. would you guys be interested in partnering with me with this horse? I just, for whatever reason, it could be a number of reasons. Maybe they bought 2 other horses. Maybe their partners backed out. Maybe something fell through. Who knows? But I love getting those emails. We love partnering with people. And Robert Lidstrom, of all people, you know, very well renowned in this business, had messaged me and said, hey, I bought this Googoo Gaagaa filly. She's Kentucky bred. Would you be interested in putting her in your program? And I was a little, taken aback a little bit. It's always nice to do business with, some people that are highly regarded in this business, and we've been lucky to do so over the last decade or so. But having a horse with Robert, with such a strong name in Europe, it meant a lot. And we wanted to do good. We always wanted to do good, but this filly has trained down very, very well. She's another filly. I trained her the other day by herself in 2-1. Come 28 seconds with her. She was very, very strong. She's Kentucky only bred, so you're probably going to see her surface at Oak Grove, her first stake race. Another filly that, as we got training her down around March or April, call it a growth spurt, call it whatever you want, she started to make a few breaks, and we had to just kind of back off and take our time with her. But as she got through that and worked herself through that, man, she's really, really turned into a nice filly. My wife Amy has gone with her in a number of these horses, and I never give her enough praise, or any of the other guys that work there. We got a big operation on both sides of the border. I'm lucky to have my brother that will come out and go with the horses here, whether it's Curtis doing all the editing, or everybody that makes the stable doesn't get enough praise. And I don't think anybody realizes what my wife, your mom, you go with Curtis everywhere, and you raise a family, to raise 3 children with me, be in the barn every day, shuttle my son around to baseball when I can, or when I just don't have time, or be everywhere she has to be. It's almost like there's 2 Amy's, and I'm always looking to see them together. She's just she makes me look lazy, and she goes with Zina all the time and knows her very, very well, and she's one of her favorites too. So I'm hoping for Zina Kemp to do well, not just for the owners, but because Amy put so much time into her also.
Well, thanks for joining us here, and of course, shout out to the true champion, Jaimi MacDonald.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us here on Tucson Training.
Thank you for having me.